How much does haute couture cost? Tens of thousands of euros? Hundreds of thousands? Millions? The pricing depends on the combination of two factors, the materials and the hours spent on hand making the garment, as in labor without an industrial sewing machine. Now multiply these two factors by the social value of the fashion house, or brand equity. Brand equity is simply brand recognition. If you're familiar with marketing, this equation of materials plus labor times brand equity is standard for all kinds of goods. But what's specific about it to haute couture? Let's use this equation to break down the silk chiffon gown from Dior's Spring-Summer 2020 collection. Mulberry silk, or silk from silkworms having fed on mulberry leaves, that's to say real silk and not synthetic silk, is one of the most expensive textiles on the market because of its labor-intensive process. Once harvested, spun, and dyed, the silk is woven where the yarn in S shapes alternates with yarn in Z shapes, often called the S and Z twist. This weave transforms the silk into silk chiffon, a sheer, semi-transparent, and flowy fabric. However, regardless of how expensive a material could be, it's the least costly factor. It's the labor-intensive process of hand-making a garment that's largely responsible for the high prices. Our silk chiffon gown was made by the flou, or dressmaking division, without sewing patterns. Sewing patterns are used when a garment is meant to be reproduced in standardized sizes, and often on an industrial scale. In haute couture, a garment is made specifically to a client's body measurements. For our chiffon gown, the artisans therefore used the moulage, or drapery technique, as in the art of manipulating fabric directly on a dress form. Furthermore, the dress form would have to have been special ordered beforehand in order to be exactly the client's body shape. According to Forbes, our dress needed 67 meters of silk chiffon and took over 250 hours to make. I hate doing this, but the video would be too long. Join me in part 2, where we'll continue to talk about haute couture prices and brand equity. How much does haute couture cost? In part 1, we saw that the equation materials plus labor times brand equity can help us better understand pricing in haute couture. Let's go back to our chiffon dress from Dior's 2020 Spring-Summer collection. Silk chiffon, although expensive, isn't the most costly factor. It's the labor involved in creating a handmade gown by moulage, or drapery. Now let's multiply materials and labor by brand equity, or brand recognition. Dior, as a permanent member of the trade association Fédération de la Haute Couture de la Mode, and a household name worldwide, can charge a high price for a silk chiffon gown. A similar garment by another permanent member with less brand visibility could make it for less. It goes without saying that a guest member would charge less too. So how much is our dress? Starting price at 100,000 euros. Starting is the key word because you have to keep in mind that runway looks are simply prototypes. In haute couture, any runway look can be modified by the client if they desire. Costly embellishments like handmade embroidery can skyrocket the price. Take for example this hand-embroidered ensemble from Dior's Spring-Summer 2023 collection. Price, 300,000 euros. But these prices are not necessarily standard for haute couture. You have to keep in mind that other permanent members with less brand equity and guest members who do not have the right to use the trademark haute couture won't be as expensive. Take for example Meghan Markle's wedding dress. It was created by Givenchy at the price of 200,000 euros. But if you were to go to, say, Robert I, a guest member, a similar wedding dress could be made for the still very astronomically high 70,000 euros. So is haute couture worth the price? That's an impossible question to answer. Haute couture is a luxury good, and by definition, everything luxurious is superfluous. No one needs haute couture to have a professional career or, more importantly, meaningful human relationships, two common measures for evaluating success and happiness. But as long as humans have used their hands to create, we have loved to beautify our bodies and the world we live in. From beadnet dresses of ancient Egypt to the 18th century robe à la française and Japanese kimonos, cultures from various times and places have always sought to make beautiful clothes for the pleasure of the senses. In other words, that search for beauty is an innate part of how we as humans experience the world. Haute couture is therefore not just a consumer's good. It is artisanal in the sense that it preserves and promotes centuries of French dressmaking and tailoring. But it's also an art form, a way of touching people's senses and emotions. Join me next time on the different phases of haute couture from 1950 to present time.